We can't gather in person this year, but we've adapted. The 2020 Milwaukee Film Festival brings the best in film from across the globe and around the corner. And this year, it's all virtual, so the films and events are coming directly to you. Join us for the 2020 Milwaukee Film Festival, October 15th through the 29th. More information is at mkefilm.org/MFF.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Milwaukee Show Behind the Lens. I'm Kara, and I am the artistic director at Milwaukee Film, and it is day 3 of the 2020 Milwaukee Film Festival presented by Associated Bank. A couple of housekeeping reminders. I want to remind you that you should still plan to cast your vote for the Alan H. Budd and Suzanne L. Seelig Audience Award. To vote, you're going to go to watch.mkefilm.org, log in with your pass or with your ticket code if you're a ticket holder. And when you go to the film page for a film that you've seen, you'll see a button there that says vote now. Click that and you will go right to the ballot and cast your vote using that same 5 is excellent, 1 is not so excellent scale that you are very used to. No pencils, don't circle the numbers on your screen. And also don't tear your computer screen. It'll really make it hard for you to watch your next film. In addition to voting, you may have also heard or seen that we have a double up challenge. The generous Judith McGregor and Richard Galloon have offered us $75,000 if we can raise that during this year's festival. There's a number of different ways to give. You can text double up to 44321. You can go to our website and go to mkefilm.org/donate. You can join us as a member or renew your membership if you're up for renewal this month and it's a good time for you to renew. That'll count. The membership options are at mkefilm.org/members, and all of it helps us. Members are really important to sustaining our organization year round. They get some goodies year round, some free movies, some discounts, all sorts of good things, but most of all, they get the feeling of knowing that they're supporting our organization and helping us do what we do year round, whether that's our education programs, the film festivals that we present, or when we're able to get back into it, the Oriental Theater, which is under construction, but is starting to look beautiful. I haven't been, I've just seen photos. I'm just as eager as you all are to get back into it. As of this morning, we are just under halfway to our goal of $75,000. But a little bird told me that if we exceed that goal, there's a possibility that it'll still get doubled. Peer pressure, right? So please do consider making a donation of whatever you might be able to afford, or telling your friends that they should, or becoming a member, or any of those ways that you can help support us in this time. This event sort of takes the place of a really important tradition. Ever since, even before the first Milwaukee Film Festival, there was a Milwaukee show. The very first thing it did was a shorts program of local films called the Milwaukee Show. And the usual Milwaukee show is you come together with everyone packed in the main house of the Oriental Theater. It's always a hot ticket. There's a lot of buzz in the air. And you watch a film, and then you hear from the filmmakers. We usually have Q&As for every single film. And then the virtual space, that isn't quite possible in the same way because you're not necessarily watching together. So this afternoon's presentation is an attempt to kind of give you that access behind the lens to hear about the making of these films from the folks who made them right here in our own community. Normally, we would have 2 Milwaukee shows and a Milwaukee music video show. You're going to hear from all of those filmmakers. In this afternoon's presentation, we're going to have like a mini Milwaukee music video show. You'll notice this year the music videos are scattered between the 2 Milwaukee shows that we're presenting. The other big difference is normally we don't have time for audience questions, but we do, sort of. Here today, feel free wherever you're watching to put your questions, your comments, your words of enthusiasm for our local filmmakers into the chat, whether that's on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, wherever you're watching. Throw your questions, your comments in. I will try to bring them into the conversation as we go. And your comments will be there for the filmmakers to see afterward as well. So please do shout out your friends, your family, and ask questions. I'm going to ask a lot of questions, but I will happily take the questions that you all have. They'll probably be better than mine. Not gonna lie. So those are the things that are different and new and exciting. And we're gonna get on with the show. I'm gonna pull in and welcome the team from Blackbird Fly. We have Mary Chewy and Gabby and Takara. And we will see. Here, director Jay Winters is maybe en route. So if Jay arrives while we're chatting, we'll pull her into the conversation as well. But Blackbird Fly, sort of imagines kind of a dream world, but with a real human as kind of the subject, right? Raven Wilkinson is the first credited African American Black ballerina to dance with a major ballet company. And the film kind of imagines her into the dream of another young as a child and into the dream of another young woman. So Mary, if you could tell us just a little bit about sort of the origin, the inspiration for this film.
Well, we did a show last year. It was a theatrical performance from different girls, and all the monologues were about historical women. And one of the monologues was the Raven Wilkinson monologue. I never heard of her before.
Mm-hmm.
And Alison Chavez from Milwaukee Ballet wrote it, and we both, my co-producer here, Gabby, we both fell in love with her story and the fact that nobody knew about her, and that what inspired us more to make the film, because I feel like in the theater, only the people that go to the theater see it, that's it. And with the film, we're gonna be able to reach more people, and so it was her idea to do it in a way. You want to talk about when we were playing Barbies and how you come up with the idea?
Okay, so
talk louder.
Okay, so I just came back from like a show similar to Medusa Junior, and I wanted to make a little mini No Studios because I have like a giant mini mansion thing, and I just wanted to add it to there. And then I had an idea to make like a play about a bunch of historical women, but as children. And at first she was like, I just got done with something that's very similar to that, and I just want to take a break. And then I forced her, so
yeah. And then for the film, I was again like, I'm too tired to produce. And then she, you do this as when you're a mom, you do things for your kids, but the real force here just arrived, which is
You're right on cue, Jay. We're just talking a little bit about kind of the origin of Blackbird Fly, and sort of what was inspiring for Mary and Gabby in sort of the Medusa Junior monologue. And so how did it sort of, what did you pick up on there?
I don't think she can.
I don't know. Jay, can you hear us?
Call her.
I don't know if she can hear us. We'll have maybe our tech can sort of work that out in the chat while we keep chatting here. Takara, how did you get involved, and what was exciting for you now that you're not in motion?
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Takara,
we can't hear you. Yeah, we can't hear you, unfortunately. It's possible, yeah. It's possible because you're on a phone that it's not pulling your speaker and your microphone in the same place.
No. Can I hear you? Well, she figures it out. I can tell you if we find her. So we conducted a series of auditions, and when she showed up to the audition, she
blew us away, because one, she looked like exactly like a mini Raven Wilkinson, and two, like, she brought a script. First of all, she wrote her own script for the audition, and it was about a black ballerina not fitting in.
So,
Oh, okay. So it sounds like she probably related kind of to this concept and to this story.
but she didn't know what monologues we have.
She didn't even know. This is just
No.
like such like synchronicity. Wow.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's incredible.
And then when we cast her, she was so good. We didn't know because it was two other monologues that she could have done. So we were like, can she do the three of them? We were just so blown away by her talent. But then we decided to do Raven Wilkinson because of her ballet skills too. But she could have done any other monologue that we have.
And let's see if we can hear Jay.
Hello?
We can hear you. I think we can hear you now. Can you hear us?
Hello,
Excellent.
everyone.
Excellent. Ready to get the technology organized for you there. So Mary's done a great job of telling us a lot of the story. What was interesting or inspiring to you about making this film?
Hello.
Hi, Takara.
Hi, Sakara. I guess the most interesting thing about this film, so I'll touch on the story-wise and then I guess the production part.
Yeah.
I'll break that into two portions. So story-wise, it was just finding out more about Raven. I did not know about her at all. And I always loved ballet anyway, so that was the most interesting thing about it. And so I would say learning more about Raven Wilkinson, and I say the production part, it was just more of, on my end, matching technically what was in my head. And I would have to say the part that was in my head, like the first thing that I got after reading Allison's play was the shot where it's Kara's like looking into the camera and then the dancers are moving away from her. That is like the first image that came in my head when I read it and was writing it. And so I was very adamant on getting that shot. And then I think everything else was like pieced around it. And so I would say technically and just like shooting wise, it was just really great that Spencer was able to kind of just capture that. Yeah. And all of the camera operators was like, it was really great because they was just kind of all sitting and just, I had them all kind of like zoom in on one particular part of the dance for everyone. And then I would just like cut it and piece it together. And it was really cool how it just kind of all came together. It was like, I didn't know half the time what we was able to actually get because I wasn't able to look at that. I was just kind of just really making sure that the emotion part was there. So I would say, the technical aspect of like trying to take within your brain and then getting it, you know, in reality, that's always fun.
Yeah. When you have such a background in sort of like deeply in sort of very specific technical parts that I think, and that not being as connected to that on set and being more focused on like what is happening between these actors must have been just sort of a different perspective for you in a lot of ways. And like maybe felt a little like, well, I don't know what's happening, but I'm trusting that that's happening over there. That the sound, that the image is, you know, sort of reflective of what you were imagining. That's a new perspective or a different side of the filmmaking process for you.
Yeah.
Laura, we heard a little bit about how your audition, you maybe serendipitously came with a similar kind of a story in mind. I'm not sure if she can hear me, and I'm setting up a question here, but I'm just interested in sort of what was exciting for you about participating in this project.
What was the most exciting for me is I got to experience something new, and I also had like a chance to just express myself in a different way, and I think it became a
You kind of come out there on that last part.
Yeah.
It became a part of me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And you learned about maybe, I'm going to assume maybe a character, a historical figure that a lot of us probably didn't know about until we watched this film, right? The film, I think, is educational for, and the play as well, but to sort of spread this knowledge of kind of a lost but very important woman to remind us that there are those really inspiring figures that we don't ever hear about. Yeah.
I'm going to be curious though. What part stayed with you, Takara?
I would say the parts that stay with me is the first part where her dad was really telling her her name, and I like that ravens don't they don't have to present bad things, but it can also make a good thing as well. And I like the ending part where that I have dreams and I have plans, and it just showed me sometimes barriers come away, but you shouldn't let it stop you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Team Blackbird Fly. We'll let you fly off to enjoy the rest of to drive along. But thank you so much for this film, all of you, and we will move on to our next film, which is Lunch Date, directed by Jennifer Higgins. Hi, Jenny. There you are. A very different film than Blackbird Fly, but you know, sort of. I think there's really a similar like spirit between these two films, which I felt like they flowed nicely in this order. So your film is, and tell me if I am incorrect about your process, but stop motion animation.
Absolutely.
And tell me a little bit more about the process for making this particular film.
For this one, basically, it is all of your performers are of course inanimate objects, and you're making a film one picture at a time. So sometimes one of the things that I really like about live action filmmaking is you can kind of let the actors find their voice, find their way, and bring things that are uniquely theirs. That happens a little differently with stop motion, and it's usually like if I move the puppet this way, part of its head falls off, or what do I need to secure? So it's a little more technical than it is. It doesn't come from within. It comes from needing to like learn on the fly sometimes.
Yeah, and so this film blends kind of. I'm gonna say there's three things that are happening. This, you can tell I'm definitely an animator when I describe this. But you have clay, you have yarn, and then you have kind of like a paper, like kind of a backdrop, and some sort of stationery. But the things that are moving or that are the actors here are the clay and the yarn. Can you talk a little bit about those choices and the difference in those materials for working with them?
I really liked the yarn itself is actually built around a tennis ball, which can be a challenge for an animator with dogs that don't understand that this is not go in your mouth. And I
want to see the director's cut with the outtakes that feature the dog.
Oh my goodness, that that was a hard day. But luckily they come in a can of 3, and yarn comes in long lengths. So I really part of what I wanted to do was a piece with knitting. And and experimentation with, yarn in and of itself needs some structure underneath. So that's where the tennis ball aspect came in. And then with the clay, I wanted something that I could have a distinctly different shape, but also be able to manipulate it and have it do some fun things with, like the flip onto the park bench. That's something that I wanted it to have more of a kind of a liquid aspect to it in that particular moment, and clay was the best medium for that. And it also largely had to do with what did I have around the house. All of this stuff was built with things that I I had around. Like all the trees are paper towel tubes with old aquarium plants kind of tucked in to make the leaves. Old foam and green paint and just some stuff I had laying around, which was also part of the fun challenge of it.
Well, I mean, in some ways, this is a very inspiring, like 2020 at home kind of filmmaking project. I'm going to issue this challenge to those of you who are watching, that, you have the materials to make a film like this. How many photos, how many still images does a 90-second short take?
Well, it's 24 frames a second, and so I have to. Oh my goodness! Somebody vamp while I pull out a calculator.
I love that. I'm asking an artist to do math. This is a very important piece of this. A lot is maybe the right answer here. I mean, that's well,
and if we just go 24 times the 90, that's 2160.
Right. So that's an awful lot of photos. Do you actually take all of the 24 frames in that second? Like you take 24 photos to make the second, or are you sometimes holding longer on a still?
There are some times when you hold a little bit longer, the pauses and stuff like that, but you still want to give just a little bit of a movement, just so it doesn't look like
now
everything froze. And so there's always a little something going on, but for the most part, it is 20. You are snap. You are.
So I just inspired everyone that you can do this at home, but it's going to take a little while, particularly when the dogs are interrupting.
And it is definitely, if you're looking for something that is going to help you meditate on patience, I highly recommend this as a practice.
Yeah. Can you? So it sounds. We've been spending a lot of time talking about the process. Can you talk a little bit about the story, this like short and sweet little story that you tell there, and the inspiration for it? Maybe without. I mean, there's a little bit of a twist, so we won't give away the spoiler.
Oh, okay. Yes, we won't. I was. Oh gosh, because one of the main inspirations is Jim Henson with. Like the first 200 Muppet sketches had one of two endings or a combination of both. One of which I won't say, but the other one was Muppet explodes. So it's, A plus B equals explosion. And a long time ago, I started doing Renaissance fairs. So you've got interactive, you've got a lot of people around, and you want to make sure that you interact with everybody. And Ron Scott Fry introduced us to the concept of hit and run theater, where it's like you come in, you have the moment, beginning, middle, end, and you leave, usually before everybody understands that it's over. So I was really kind of inspired about combining those two things, and how quickly can you have a story that doesn't sound like you're just brushing it off. So that was, and then when I looked at the timing at the end of everything, I'm like, oh, it's a minute and a half. Okay, let's see.
Right. I appreciate very, very short shorts, as well as, sort of all the full range. It's nice to be able to kind of, see how tightly can you pack kind of, I mean, it's not the most developed story, but there is a narrative arc to this film, and to sort of see how quickly you can pack that together. Plus, if you made an entire feature of stop motion at 24 frames per second, you would have run out of tennis balls.
I'd still be in the dark clicking the button. So I really like super shorts. It's kind of an amuse-bouche that can help bridge other shorts together, and just kind of something that pops in, and maybe even a little visual sorbet if you want to move from one topic to another. It's the short before the feature. I always loved those. They were something extra and something fun.
Yeah. Are you working on anything next? We've just talked about the appeal of the ability to do this even while you're maybe not allowed to do kind of normal high-level production. Are you working on any new projects?
Yes. Yes, I am. And with this one, I'm challenging myself to figure out how to animate water.
Ooh.
Yeah, without it being too messy. It's we'll have large objects coming out of small spaces, and it's going to focus on a puddle.
I'm intrigued. I'm ready. All
Thank
right.
you.
Well,
So am
thank you, Jenny. And folks who haven't yet checked out Lunch Date, make sure you do. We're going to shuffle our order a tiny bit here to make way for some things. And I'm going to ask for Cynthia Johnson, the director of Homecoming, to join me on screen next.
Hi, Kara.
Hi, Cindy. So, your film is a documentary about Elena Velez's kind of homecoming show, as she calls it in the film. Elena being a fashion designer originally from Milwaukee, who's kind of burst out onto the scene in New York and London, write-ups in Teen Vogue, all those good things. How did you get a hold of kind of Elena's story? How did you know that this was a film that you wanted to work on or make?
Yeah. So it was interesting. Elena's work is really informed from her upbringing and her relationship with her mother. And I happened to be scouting for a different shoot at the Milwaukee Sailing Club, which her mother manages. And she said, "Oh, you're a videographer. I have got this project that my daughter's putting together and we need a videographer. Would you be interested in filming it for us?" And she was specifically just talking about the runway show that she was producing. And so I said, "Well, sure, let's talk." And I met Elena via email and then Zoom, and was just blown away by her. And
this is Zoom in like pre-2020 times.
Yes.
I'm just going to point out it existed.
It did. Shockingly, yeah. And she just, totally blew me away just with her creativity and her maturity. She was 25 at the time that I met her. And, just the way that she comported herself was, more mature than a lot of 40-year-olds that I know. So yeah, I just knew that I wanted to help her out and record the show. And then I was just so impressed that I just knew that there was a longer story there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How did you convince her that this shouldn't just be like a recording of the runway?
Yeah.
But that there was more to it.
Yeah. So, she's very media savvy. She basically grew up with social media. And so she knew that I was doing her a huge favor by shooting the runway show for her. And she absolutely said, "Follow me as much as you want.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it'll be a great collaboration." And she wanted to show sort of the hard work that it takes to put on a really high quality fashion show, a New York style fashion show in Milwaukee.
Yeah. And she talks a lot in the film a little bit about like the importance of collaboration to put on the show. But I think that probably then bleeds into kind of thinking about these other arts that she's trying to fold in, right? She includes in the runway, there's some musicians, local musicians, local artists. She's trying to keep it as local to Milwaukee as possible, as opposed to just bringing like helicopter dropping in a New York fashion show into Milwaukee and then leaving. So I think that is felt, and it makes sense that she would kind of embrace like you as another collaborator to kind of add to the art that is being presented. So we've talked a little bit about the show. We've talked a bit about her spirit. You then follow her back to New York. And, sort of how do you feel like this film adds to sort of conversations about art in Milwaukee? And how does her story maybe add to that for you?
Yeah. To me, it's, I love her message that, we can be a strong arts community in and of itself. What we do here has just as much legitimacy as anything that's happening on the East and West Coast. And we have our own voices. We have our own, outlook. And she's actually trying to create a new kind of, work environment here in Milwaukee that will help other people flourish as well as herself. and dabble in the coasts instead of the other way around, where you dabble in the Midwest from the coasts. So
yeah, and that's I mean it's a lot of things that Elena says in the film remind me of things that I think are happening within the film industry here, which is to really try to and I think this global pandemic is contributing to this as well, but that you can actually live in Milwaukee and, make films sustainably, tell stories, but that you don't have to leave and only come back on the holidays. I think that that she's telling us that about fashion, but I think it's true more broadly as well. I was also very struck in sort of revisiting the film of that she's telling about a moment in Milwaukee's history where industry and artisanship sort of mattered, but then also seeing that move into the present and the future, which I think is really inspiring for all artists, whether they're fashion artists, film artists, music artists.
So she's just so intentional, and the fact that she wants to hold dear to what made Milwaukee great and makes Milwaukee great in every for throughout all of what she does, including her clothing, is very inspiring.
And that instead of just being negative, right? The sort of abundance of it, like being like, look at all these riches, look at all that we have to add to the larger industry. Any updates since the end of the film? At the end, we learned that sort of she had to return from London due to the pandemic. Is she still in New York? How's she doing?
Nope, she's here.
She's back in Milwaukee.
Yep, she's back in Milwaukee. As a matter of fact, she and I are going to do a little live Q&A after a watch party next Saturday with hopefully some people that watch the film. And she is actually embarking on this pretty incredible new step in her career. She's aligned herself with a local innovation lab, which is helping her sort of frame out the business side and the sort of strategy side of her brand. And that includes, again, trying to create an environment and a business that really elevates collaborators. So it's a really exciting time. She says it's like she's in getting her MBA in and she's hoping that at the end of it that she'll be launching another line next spring or fall, I believe, in New York, and then doing a companion show again in Milwaukee.
We'll all have to watch for that. Are you working on anything next or new?
I am. I'm actually working on my next documentary, and it just happens to be about a performance artist who decided to tackle the Electoral College, and she's promoting the National Popular Vote movement. And so I'm following her as she is doing these performance pieces all over Wisconsin, trying to help encourage people to support the National Popular Vote.
Interesting. Yeah. We'll all keep an eye out for that. And I imagine that, the next couple of weeks will shape it significantly.
I hope so.
In ways that you can't anticipate as the filmmaker. Welcome to documentary filmmaking, where
election night is going to be an interesting shoot. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Cindy. Good luck on your next project, and please send Elena our love and appreciation as well.
Thank you for having me, and just love Milwaukee Film and love the festival. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. We're going to hear from Colin Seitzma, the director of Stolen Apes Buonoi. How did I do on her name? I've been practicing. That is the name of a gorilla's name.
Yep, you pronounced it right. Thanks for having me.
You gotta make sure you do your best. So, Colin, this film is actually sort of your second Stolen Apes film. I'm interested in hearing you first sort of went to Kenya and now you've gone to Thailand. And I'm interested in why legal great apes trade is one that you're sort of compelled to continue to explore.
Yeah, I think, I started by making a 18-minute documentary called Stolen Apes, and then this is kind of an extension of that. And I believe, that transplanting and trafficking these animals to different parts of the world really hurts the ecosystem. And as we're seeing unfold right now, it can have some pretty big consequences for different types of species. And so I've been lucky to have the opportunity to gain access to some really unique places and NGOs throughout the world. So I've been kind of using that to find stories and show them to the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like, earlier this year, the Tiger King put kind of a lot of a spotlight on animal trafficking. Do you feel like that's increased awareness around, not just tigers, but broader animal trafficking? Is that something that do you feel a momentum around this topic through these media objects?
Definitely. I feel like we're really starting to pay for some of the mistakes that we've made in the past, and they're coming pretty apparent. And so there's been a lot of momentum, not just through Tiger King. I mean, National Geographic is doing a follow-up to that kind of, as far as I understand, focuses on tigers more. But I think it's starting to be a little bit more accepted throughout the world that removing animals, especially highly endangered ones, from ecosystems really damages our world as a whole. And so I think we're going to start seeing more media made that is eco-friendly, as well as, kind of exposing some of these more nefarious facets that our world has. Yeah.
You're working all over. What's it like to do that while being still like a Wisconsin-based filmmaker? And this is like kind of a both like the experience of it and the business of it, but also some of the production aspects of like, how do you pack? I'm going to guess you don't bring as many pairs of shoes as I do.
No, definitely not. You have to pack pretty efficiently and have a lot of, contingency plans in place. Sometimes you'll learn that the hard way too, where, you're in a place where you don't have access to, another battery or another camera. So kind of always, bringing an extra camera is also a very big one. But it's made me think ahead a lot and really plan for what could go wrong. I think, as most filmmakers know, something always goes wrong when you're shooting in the edit room. And so just kind of like planning for that, because, when you're in Africa and your camera breaks, which did happen to me, you kind of have a moment where you're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So just having contingencies in place is a big part of my life now.
And are you working with local folks? Are you bringing your full crew? I'm assuming it's like maybe just you, maybe you and one other person on a lot of these shoots. Do you work with local folks when you can, or?
I try to work with local folks as much as possible. For this Stolen Apes Buanoy film, I pretty much did the whole thing myself while in Thailand, filming and producing. I was able to hire a sound person when I was in Africa. I always like to do that when I can. But, in this case for Stolen Apes Buanoy, it was, I needed to have a small crew. I needed to look like a tourist, and I needed to, not be the center of attention, which is hard because I'm 6'3" and white in a foreign country. So it's, everyone kind of notices you anyway. So I was trying to detract from anything else.
Yeah. What are you working on now or next, or in a time where you're not maybe as able to travel? What's on the hopper for you?
Yeah, I have a few things. I'm making a third Stolen Apes film. It's going to be an animation about what the exact cost of poaching an orangutan is. And then I'm also working on a feature about healthcare in prisons. and that's based in Maryland. And I've been filming kind of through the pandemic on that. And it's a tall order, definitely, to make a film on healthcare in prisons. So that'll probably take me a few years, but I do feel like the story and the stories that are coming out of the world of incarceration are pretty compelling.
Yeah. Are you thinking about the Stolen Apes trilogy as a trilogy of short films? Are you thinking about eventually it maybe like transforming itself into a feature project or a broadcast length project, or?
Yes,
maybe all of it, maybe.
I think I want to make a feature, you know, and I tried to express what I wanted to do at the pitch contest last year, and I'm not sure I executed my vision quite clearly. And I think that it's going to take me a while, so I'm planning to make a few more Stolen Apes shorts about extinct apes that used to exist, as well as other different isolated great ape trafficking cases. And so I'm hoping to get, you know, a slew of shorts that I eventually build a feature at the end. So.
And maybe, I mean, and maybe those become chapters in sort of more of a chapter style feature, or maybe you figure out some different arc altogether. I mean, it's sort of the documentary filmmaking makes it so that sometimes you start thinking you're making one film and you end up making an entirely different film. So, and it'll also be interesting, I think, as like life and history and politics and commerce may shape or change or evolve the story as well. Yeah. Well, wonderful. Thank you, Colin, for your film and for your time. And
thank you for having me.
Good luck with these two projects that both sound pretty big right now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, I'm going to welcome Karen Urbach Lawler and Patrick Lawler. And there was a dog on screen earlier, and I hope there's a dog still.
Oh, he's wandering around somewhere.
Okay, well, tell the dog I have questions. Last night, a dog thought I was going to ask questions of the dog in the Q&A, so we'll see if it happens again.
No, we got you covered if you haven't.
So. Karen, your film sort of explores water safety and the impact of factory farming and agribusiness on water quality, specifically here in Wisconsin, but with kind of a lens that this is one story that tells many stories as in that. Can you talk a little bit about how you came to this subject, this topic, this issue?
Sure. Thank you. I was doing some work for the Brico Fund, and I became introduced to the Milwaukee Environmental Advocates Group. And I read a story about a woman up north that had to make a decision between using her water to make spaghetti that night or using her bottled water to make coffee in the morning. And I was sort of confused, like, why did she have bottled water? Why did she have to make these decisions? And realized that not too far away from her was a huge dairy factory farm that had been contaminating her water for years, and it was undrinkable, and she had gotten MRSA from it. And I was just moved by that. And then it just sort of went down a rabbit hole to the entire state of Wisconsin and actually the country.
Yeah. And so you thought, oh, we have to figure out, this has to be told. In the course of making this, this documentary, what did you learn? What did you discover about this issue? I like that one woman and that sort of this domestic dispute, like this internal, this very specific thing that inspired, like, how did it unfold in terms of telling that story?
Thanks for helping me tell the story. So what happened is I actually was assigned to do a story on citizen engagement. And up in Milwaukee County and Door County and in northern Wisconsin, there's a huge contingency of some of the most amazing citizen advocates I've ever seen. And they all live in rural country. They are intelligent, they are well informed, they show up at meetings, they do testing. it was an incredible experience to be out in rural Wisconsin and to meet an incredible group of activists. And what I learned was that it had been going on for years and that these CAFOs had been growing for 20 years and many communities had no say about this. So in other words, the legislature is making decisions for people's water quality in their town. I hate to get political, but I'm just going to say it. People like Ron Voss and Scott Fitzgerald are out there literally making decisions for people in other counties and in areas in Wisconsin that he doesn't live and he doesn't feel the impact from. And yet people are suffering greatly from this. Oh, yeah. And so I went up there, and as I learned more, I would show up at hearings for laws. A lot of that isn't even in this documentary because it's so complicated, and I had to shorten it as it is. But, you know, a lot of the stuff that happens with our environment is decisions made by politicians, as you know. And so you have to show up, you have to know what your politicians are actually doing, not what they're saying. Like, what bills are they passing? What bills are they writing? Are they from corporations, you know?
Oh, yeah. And it's big agriculture has a lot of power, and they basically write the rules, and the politicians just rubber stamp them. And there's a very little that normal people can do to counteract that. And in Kewaunee County, they are doing everything they possibly can. And it's interesting to go to these meetings, and you have 20 or 30 citizens who will get up and speak to a problem, and then as soon as the last one is done, the chairman of the meeting will just say, okay, and we decided it this way already, so we're done.
Right.
It's very frustrating, and they've been fighting an uphill battle, and they are making progress. They are they're putting limits on the number of cows that can actually be in an enclosed space. And this is the other thing, we're fighting nature on this. You know, that many animals were never meant to be confined in that small a space, and their waste and byproducts
and all the cleaning materials
and the cleaning materials and the antibiotics
spread all over the farms
and the antipsychotics they have to take because they're so close together they go crazy. None of that was ever meant to be consolidated into, you know, a small space, let alone pumped into trucks and sprayed on fields. You know, it's creating an environmental catastrophe, and it's not just Kewaunee County. Kewaunee County is just where we saw it. You know, it's pretty much anywhere you have a factory farm like that, there's going to be a huge environmental imprint.
Yeah, people actually don't realize that it's not just that it's this big factory farm that's taking jobs away from small farmers all over the country, but they use an incredible amount of water with these to clean, for the animals, for the crops that they have to grow to feed the animals. Like, there's this whole system that's sort of in a shell of big ag.
Yeah, so they're using good water at an amazing rate and destroying the rest of the water at an amazing rate at the same time.
Polluting rivers and outlets, and the trout fishing in Kewaunee County is dead.
Yeah.
All right, I'll let you ask a question. Sorry.
Patrick, when did you get involved?
Pretty much right away. Pretty much right away. I kind of get involved, you know, by default, you know, when she gets an idea on this. She needed a drone operator. And so I went up with her one weekend and just met these people and listened to their stories, and just, you know, you can't not get involved. Mm-hmm. It's like if you drink water, you need to be involved in this.
Yeah. So like this, I like that you just sort of said, I just always get involved. I like, that's your tagline now. I think you can put it on your business card.
That and don't make me do stuff. T-shirt.
Yeah.
It's always something.
You said that there's progress being made, you know, sort of in terms of kind of these activist groups starting to make legislation or regulations that do certain kinds of, that make things a little better, right? These small movements. Can you talk a little bit more about these incremental changes, and then also maybe how audiences can contribute or support or learn more or any of that stuff?
I wish I could speak more about it because it's not a lot of progress. Because basically they're fighting Goliath. They're fighting a system that is basically rigged to keep them out. But they're making their voices heard, and they're getting the word out. Things like this documentary, and there have been others, and hopefully there will be others that get people aware. People in Milwaukee and Madison and the bigger cities, and let them know that this is all of our problem. This isn't just these farmers up in the hinterlands. This is everybody, and it's gonna take us all down with it. So we all just really need to be aware of where our food comes from, what goes into it, how basically we're going to vote with our dollars at the store. This is where you need to look for where your milk is coming from, and your pork and your beef. And
I mean, a lot of these pork CAFOs are owned by, Smithfield's owned by the Chinese. I mean, nothing against the Chinese at all. And the beef industry is pretty much owned by Brazil. So a lot of these companies don't even have any stake in being here, but
so
you're right. You should know where your food comes from.
And think with an eye towards sustainability. Like smaller farms worked for a very good reason. They're set up to be sustainable. When you get something that's purely for profit like this, it's going to be a self-defeating enterprise.
Yeah.
Also, during this COVID virus, actually, if there had been more smaller farms, all these animals wouldn't have had to have been culled or fruit thrown out, because it would have been hundreds of little farms being able to share their produce and chickens or eggs or whatever without having to kill them all. And also, viruses do grow in these environments of packed-in animals. That's just the nature.
And the antibiotics get into the meat and the dairy products, and we absorb them when we consume
so now
it.
there's these super bugs.
It's just an onion that you start peeling, and every single layer just smells worse than the last one.
It's true.
It's
nicely put.
But we laugh, but it's really just kind of like you just have to be careful about who's making your food and what you're putting in your mouth.
Yeah, and that feels like a very small, attainable step to be sort of informing, reading, but remembering it may be one thing, but to sort of that seems like something that everyone can take personal responsibility for, as opposed to you need to give this huge amount of money to this or this, or show up to this meeting or that meeting. It feels very personal. We had a question in the chat about how the film, other than obviously sending people to watch it at the Milwaukee Film Festival, how the film might be made available to help spread this message. Do you have plans for that in the works, perhaps?
Okay, so actually that's already happened. The film has been distributed through all the networks of all the groups that are trying to fight CAFOs. They have been making DVDs. It's online for them to share. A lot of communities have been watching and sharing this movie amongst themselves as an educational tool. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, so people should look for. Is there a website that we can send people to if they want to?
Facebook, it's Sold on the River on Facebook, and after this film festival, it will be available for everybody to watch. Excuse me.
So so share it widely so that it can help spread the story. Are you working on anything new or next, or that we can watch for?
Well, I'm working on. I just wrote up a proposal for a limited TV series with a guy from Vice about what's going on in Flint. A lot of people don't know the behind the stories behind Flint, Michigan, and their water problems. So that's what I'm working on.
Great. Well, we'll keep our eyes open for it. Thank you both so much. No thanks to the dog for not coming and answering the questions. It's fine. Another time. Thank you for your time and for your film, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Kara.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Next, I'm going to be joined by Valerie Lazalier, one of the directors of Lenore Tawney, Mirror of the Universe.
Hi, Kara. Thanks for having me, and thanks for having the documentary in the film festival.
Yeah. So the film sort of is one of, a number of films that the John Michael Kohler Art Center has begun sort of creating to kind of document exhibitions and artists in kind of a way that isn't just an exhibition or just a, kind of a standard catalog kind of a thing. I'm interested, and you worked or continue to work at the Kohler Art Center. Can you talk a little bit about sort of the origin of this film in that space and with those maybe kind of roots?
Yeah, definitely. So it was kind of came out of a selfish place because when I started to research Lenore, I was hoping there would be something on YouTube about her that I could just quickly watch and kind of get oriented before I really dug in. And there wasn't. There was nothing at all. There was some lectures where she was mentioned, things like that, but there wasn't the thing I was looking for. So luckily, being supported by an institution, they're like, you should do that then. And we had so many great collaborators on the project that we were going to bring in anyway, that we had a lot of great people we could interview kind of already on hand. And we did a publication, so we had a lot of great photography and worked with co-director Andrew Swant to get some footage of the galleries, and it all just kind of came together in this really nice package to get the word out about Lenore and her work and how wonderful it all is.
Mm-hmm. Before the exhibition was coming, were you already aware of, you were not already aware of Lenore Tawney because you went to be like, let me get a quick little video intro, can you talk a little bit about that, this sort of moment of kind of discovery and kind of unpacking such a sort of important artist? We learn from so many curators and art historians that she's really important and influential, but also that she's sort of, erased or overlooked, or I don't know what verb we want to use there. But can you talk a little bit about that moment of discovery?
Sure. Yeah. No. I would say she's underrecognized. There's certainly a large group of people who are super into her, which I learned as I got deeper in, and it's wonderful to see that community. But for me personally, I had a background in art history. Pretty traditional though. Not a lot of women. Not any weavers, I don't think. Even though the program I went to was, nothing bad against them, but just Lenore and her contemporaries weren't really part of the story. So coming to her, I didn't even really know how to talk about the field properly because it was just so new to me. So I was hoping that, even just a short documentary like this might give people the chance to feel familiar with her in a way that feels less intimidating. I think that going to a contemporary museum or seeing contemporary work or weaving, any of that could be maybe, what would you say, people might not feel prepared to see it or feel like they get prepared to get into it. And so things like the exhibition series, certainly in the book we made, and this documentary as well, would just kind of give people the footing to feel like they can get into it, because it's really just visceral when you see it. And even in some of the detail images, you can really see there's obviously a lot of work and skill that goes into it, and just making people feel familiar with it was kind of the goal.
Yeah. It's sort of an interesting tension between the way that I think fiber arts are sort of dismissed as craft. They're not art. They're not high art. But then this sort of, when it comes into that space, that there's an unfamiliarity with, the medium or with the, the sort of sculptural nature. I will say, if you all haven't seen the film yet, you will immediately respect the talent, the craft, the art, the vision. It's wildly beautiful, and I'm a little regretful I didn't get a chance to see it in the wool. I don't know. The flesh. It's not made of flesh. It's made of fiber. But to sort of have that sort of experience within the space. But I think that the film does a good job of helping you feel like you are there. That you're able to get around the work, which is very sculptural, and feels like it's like cellular organic, even though it is like, you know, that it's plant or animal in ways that it actually is not. I'm teasing you all, if you haven't yet seen the film, to learn more about Lenora Tawney. What was maybe most surprising to you in this project of kind of unpacking her, learning more about her life, her work, her status, her dismissedness?
Yeah, I think for me, it may have been kind of her lifetime. She lived for 100 years, and so just kind of like checking in with her and how she kind of like skimmed along the surface of the art world and kind of seeing the art world develop as she was kind of, it's hard not to make weaving puns, woven through it. But I think really part of it that really struck me initially when I was reading about her timeline and kind of piecing it together for myself was that she came to art in general, but certainly weaving like later in life. I think a lot of us, including myself, fantasize about some second career that we have when we're like 50 and like, you know, can reinvent ourselves. And she did it. Like most people, unfortunately, don't get the chance, but she definitely did. And just taking all the liberties that she could find and kind of like running with it in such a dedicated, like single-minded way. Not necessarily for recognition from the art world in general, certainly when she was later in her career, but just doing it like for herself and making these like beautiful works of art for herself that we can now enjoy. So
yeah, that it's a part of the film that is inspiring, right? We learn about an artist we may not have known about. We get to see this incredible art, but also her sort of, she's doing it for her and not for, you know, fame, recognition, money, etc. You know, and that is inspiring in itself. In the sort of smallness of it, I think is definitely a piece that I was struck by as well. Are you working on anything next, or new, or future?
Certainly. Film-wise, though, I mean, I think that just having the opportunity to make this short documentary and then having it accepted to the festival, which is really exciting, you know, looking for more opportunities like this one. We do a lot of scholarship at the Kohler Arts Center, and we try to get it out as many ways as we can. I think now, seeing the success of this documentary, we could hopefully think of other ways to incorporate this sort of more than 3 minutes, less than 20-minute time range for those who, you know, have a little more time, but, you know, can't commit to like a feature. Certainly can't produce one, not yet. You know, just kind of thinking about this as more a part of our approach to letting people kind of into the world of the artists. So.
Yeah. I think it's and it sort of preserves it in a different kind of a way, but in a way that is also, you don't have to go to Sheboygan necessarily to kind of get into those galleries and have those experiences. So I appreciate it, even though I'm not that far from Sheboygan, but I make it there less than I probably should. So I appreciate that you're sending Sheboygan out into the world for us as well. But yes, I'm going to make a goal, go to Kohler Arts Center more frequently. Thank you, Valerie, for your time and for your film. And we'll watch for more artists that we may have overlooked down the line.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you. All right, we are going to take a strong turn, and I am going to welcome the director and an actor from Crabs. That's me saying it with an exclamation point at the end. Ben Eisner and Kenny Summerall. When you said the title before, you didn't say it with an exclamation point. So did Kenny hear on us before he? All right.
Yeah,
well,
you're right. I need to work on that. Important.
He'll show up when he shows up while we're talking. All right. So Ben, your film opens with the line "inspired by true events."
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, it was inspired by one of my closest friends, Aaron Mars, who I worked with at a record label in Nashville, Tennessee. And Aaron was that guy who was like ready to live big and you know, count the cost later. But it's just like he was a dreamer and he just did it. So he was growing a beard slowly but surely. And it's like, Aaron's looking kind of scruffy. And then literally one day, Aaron walked in to the office with full-on waders, like a Steve Zissou hat, and all the professional crabbing gear. you need to go up to Alaska and jump on a crabbing boat. And he says, I quit. And we're like, what? It's like, yeah, I got 3 friends to go with me to Alaska, and we're going to try to meet a crabbing boat captain and get on a crabbing boat and make a documentary. I was so inspired by that. Aaron's story didn't end the way we all hoped it would. First season, he got great footage, came home for Christmas with no job and a milk crate full of tapes. And the skipper said, hey, man, how's your documentary going? And he said, well, linear editing isn't the same as it is today. He's like, well, I need some money to finish this thing. It's not going. And the skipper said, well, how about this? Why don't you come up here? I'll pay your way. Come to the January season because it's way more intense, but it'll help you round out your documentary, but also help you to come home with some cash to finish your documentary. What do you think? He took him up on his offer. Opening day, 2005, January 15th of the Opilio crab fishing season on the Bering Sea. They woke up standing in the dark in their bunks, and before Aaron could get up above deck, the boat listed, and everyone died, including my friend Aaron. One survivor. He was the veteran fisherman who literally went to bed with his survival suit on every night. So, inspired by true events. Yeah, I guess you'll have to someday see the whole feature that Crabs the Short is based on to find out what I did with it. So.
Yeah, so you've preempted or transitioned very nicely to the question. You know, it's sort of the end. It says it's excerpted from this feature.
Yeah,
more to come. When do we expect to see that feature?
That's a great question. So pretty much number one, I wanted to make Crabs with Milwaukee Film community before I moved to LA because I was like, oh my gosh. This is how I'm going to make this great film with great people. I'm going to make this thing as a proof of concept and then obviously submit it to festivals. But Crabs is scene 7, scene 18, and scene 20 of the feature. And pretty much the feature came when I was sitting in Aaron's funeral in denial. And literally the question dropped in my mind, what if Aaron's still alive? And if Aaron's still alive, what would have to happen? And so what I did was I went on this journey to figure out, like, if Aaron is still alive, how can I mythologize this hero, this really beautiful person, and kind of immortalize him in a way where it's like, oh, history kind of ended bad for Aaron, but like, how could I take the spirit of Aaron and cast it a little wider to the world? And so the big plan is, I've got a couple other projects. I've got a kind of a stable of projects I have lined up that once, I've got 2 others I'm working really hard, and I feel like the Interiors of Mars, the feature length of Crabs is kind of third on deck. So I've got 2 others right now, but it's going to be one of those things, the second, an agent says, yeah, this is really interesting, but what else do you have? And I'll say, it's funny you should ask. So,
yeah.
I don't know if that answered your question.
It does. It's, you just said we'll just keep waiting, but you'll let us know.
Yes, I'll let you know.
Yeah. Did writing the screenplay and sort of like, reinventing Aaron, was that a cathartic activity? Would that help you is that a productive grieving tool?
Absolutely. It was powerful, Kara. It was such a powerful experience for me because Aaron was one of my closest friends. And so losing him was like, a huge part of my soul felt missing. But when I decided to take the dive, and actually I got struck with kind of inspiration, and immediately 12 years after he died, in 17, and I swear Aaron was sitting with me the whole time, and he's like, hey, write this would be really cool. You know what I mean? I mean, it sounds crazy, but I just felt the presence of my really great friend with me, And I think it was the proof was in the pudding when I dared to reach out to his family and say, hey, I haven't talked to you for 12 years, and I was at Aaron's funeral, but would you mind if I drive to Kentucky to meet with you? Because I have something I want to share with you.
Yeah.
I was really scared. I show up at their doorstep, and I kind of pour my heart out. I hand them a bound copy of the script, nervous, like I changed history, but it's to honor your son. They loved it. They were in like tears, and they said this was kind of the closure that we were really hoping for with Aaron's loss. You know, it's kind of put a lot to bed for them. So it kind of was really beautiful for me to be like, wow, I took the spirit of this beautiful person and I kind of recast it for a timeless tale, and they were honored, and that's was my ultimate heart and hope in making it. So yeah.
And so why make crabs before leaving for LA? Like, why Milwaukee? What was it about the community here that made you want to sort of, you know, like articulate these parts into actual vision as opposed to just the written vision?
It's really good. That's a great question. I feel so intimately connected with so many people in the Milwaukee film community. It's just like we have kind of built this shorthand in a lot of ways, just in terms of just efficiency on set, communication, and there's this beautiful camaraderie where we kind of don't need to like start with the icebreaker. Like day one, we are already like in the deep, and we're going to battle and we're making art. And I just think that you can't just fabricate that or kind of like go to a spreadsheet and be like, I want the best cinematographer, I want the best gaffer, I want the best whatever. I think it really first and foremost comes down to community. And I am like blown away at what the Milwaukee film community brings to the table. I mean, whenever you feel like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to pull this off, and then you've got some MacGyver figure like Nick Summer who's like, oh yeah, that's no problem. You just do this, you do this, you do this, you do this. Like, hold on just a second. He pulls something out of his bag and he's like, this is perfect. He hangs it on the wall and it's like, that's perfect. So that's just like an example of what the talent in Milwaukee. And I think that bringing Kenny into this, I just have to say, Kenny Somerville, the second I knew I was making this in Milwaukee, I was like, I don't care what it takes. I'm going to like change my schedule to make sure I get Kenny playing this character, Gabe, because I just know that Kenny could challenge channel this energy of this person named Gabe, who I was very close with. It was one of Aaron's closest friends. Mm-hmm. Kenny nailed it. So kudos to Milwaukee production. Really beautiful.
I mean, he's not here. He disappeared on us. So you could have said not as nice of things, but look, you must not have anything not nice to say about him.
I have nothing I'm bad to say about Kenny Somerville. Yeah. He's the man.
Well, thank you for making one last film with us before you left us. Maybe you'll come back.
Oh, I will. I'm already making plans. So,
I don't know what
keeps, you know.
I always say LA is a nice place to visit, but
yeah, there's some pretty great things about being here too. But I still feel super close to Milwaukee, and I still consider it home to me in a lot of ways. So yeah, you know,
we'll be here. Anything that you're working on now that you want to tease out for the public? Anything that you can talk about?
I'm writing a script right now. It's takes place. I'll just read the log line. It's 1978 Hollywood. Gay comedian Ron Jordy is desperate to break out of typecasting purgatory as America's funniest short gay guy. As Ron comes to terms with cultural warnings of an immune deficiency disorder germane to the gay community, Ron is faced with an added surprise, birthed from a one-night stand with a straight woman at Woodstock in a VW bus. And I'm telling you right now, I already have 3 actors, 3 names attached. And it's just one of those things that's like feels so right for the making. And I'm not supposed to say this, Kara, but my hope, I'm saying this to the universe, I really hope this film is done before, so I can submit it to 2021 Milwaukee Film. I'm just throwing it out there because it just feels so right.
Well, we'll keep watching. You just said it on the internet, so
I just said it on the internet. Is that bad?
yeah, no, it's fine. Only everyone is able to watch it and listen to it now. So
oh shoot,
you've intentioned it into the world.
I have.
We'll see.
Let it be.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ben, for your film, for your time. Folks who haven't yet had the chance to catch Craps, that's with an exclamation point, as you can tell from me trying to say it weirdly. Make sure you check it out.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kara. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Next, I'm going to be joined by the director of Nasty Heaven, Cecilia Ellsburn. And now I'm going to switch to calling you Cece again, because that is how I know you.
Yes, good to see you again.
I'm like, here's your full name. I get a formal opportunity. I'm going to use my chance there. So, Cece, can you tell us about kind of the origin of the concept of Nasty Heaven? Like, where did this start for you?
For sure. So I was actually at a music festival and I was on a hammock, and it was kind of like a earth conscious, kind of a hippie thing going on, type of festival. So as I'm sitting here, a lot of people are talking about like loving the earth, and people were also like throwing their garbage on the ground. And it was just like, why? Like, we're here, we all believe in this message, but why is there so much trash everywhere? And I got to thinking, like, how do you get people to understand that that's just, not something that should be happening? And I was like, what if when we die, we have to eat everything that we've ever littered? Like, what if that is the consequence, is you have to eat it? And I thought that was funny, and it turned into a script. And from there, it turned into, well, what if when you're eating that garbage, you're remembering what you were doing? And maybe when we're littering, it's more of a reflection of the inside. That's how it came.
It started as sort of one kind of like, how do I point out this hypocrisy, and sort of evolved into like sort of really thinking about like, what is our attachment to things, but what is our attachment to our own memories and our own experiences. And in the film, sometimes memories you haven't thought of for some time that are quite distant, or that you've escaped in deliberate or not so deliberate kinds of ways. What were challenges in making this film? What are some moments that were unexpected or surprising, or specifically like sort of hard, challenging, unique?
For sure. So I made this film. This was my senior thesis film when I was trying to get my film degree from UWM. And so I filmed this in the late fall of 2018. So a lot of my shooting was taking place in November. It was very cold. Plenty of shoots had to get canceled just because I didn't want to be outside, and I didn't want to make other people be outside who were giving me their time and talent. So that was definitely one of the biggest challenges, but also making this film while I was studying, working, just a lot of things going on. It was a very, very hectic time. But also at the same time, because I was in a class, I had so much support from professors and peers. I had people reading my script and watching all of my raw footage every other day, basically. So while it was challenging, I also had a lot of support.
Yeah. Were there any sort of specific onset moments that tell us a good onset story? Tell us something strange that happened, or something funny.
Oh man, I'm trying to think. I feel like there were many. Oh, one. So my film starts and ends with the character dying. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen it. But so we filmed that outside of my apartment on like the corner of this street. And we had some cars pull over and we're like, are you okay? Even though there were cameras and like 10 of us standing around this person who like fell over, we still had someone be like, do I need to call someone? Are you all right? And we were like, we got it. Thank you. But this is intentional. This is not a problem.
Sort of a sweet story about how much Milwaukee, you know, just this is probably nothing, but I'm just gonna check. I'm just gonna just sure.
Probably a Midwestern thing to let me just check in on you there.
Very wholesome there, just to make sure. And like they've got a camera, but maybe I should just check, make sure things are not unexpected. Yeah. So you made this film while you were still in school. Can you talk a little bit about, you know, since then, like, are you able to sort of pull that same kind of community together? You talked a little about the support that you had from that experience. Is that something you are pulling together for your work now?
Sure. So I've taken a little bit of a step back from directing and done more freelance editing once I graduated, but still, like, a lot of the names that I got to know when I was in school are still making things. People are still collaborating. I think that a lot of the people I worked with at UWM are people I'm going to work with hopefully for the rest of my life, even if we're in different cities or whatever. Just a lot of really talented people that are still making awesome things.
Yeah. And have you said you've been doing more freelance editing? Is that is that sort of your main film home in sort of editing? Are you thinking you will direct again?
I would like to. I would like to. I learned so much making Nasty Heaven, which I feel like on one hand, you can go back and watch this film you made when you were in school and you can like cringe at all the mistakes and like, oh, I would do that differently, or, do this way. But right now when I watch it, I'm like, man, I just want to make another film and take all those lessons and apply them to the new one. I really do enjoy editing. I still feel like I'm trying to find my niche though, within the film community, but working on that.
Yeah. Are you working on anything now that are sort of fomenting any future films?
Well, National Novel Writing Month is going to start in November. I love NaNoWriMo. I've attempted novels before, and that's been fun, but I figured that maybe this NaNoWriMo could be a script month. I've got a lot of ideas. Every filmmaker has a little idea notebook that they reference now and again. So I have some of that going on. Also, I'm digitizing all of my family's old home videos and like mini DV tapes. I have like film strips too from like the 70s that I haven't even gotten to yet. And I don't know if that will ever turn into a project that like non-family members will see. But if there's good content in there, I might just expose everyone and make something.
Yeah.
Who knows?
One, you just told the whole internet about your November plans. So all of us are going to hold you accountable.
Thank you.
I need that. What happens when you say these things on the internet. But also, I think it's always interesting sort of how this I'm just sort of like doing this project, this archival, it's just administrative, but like being open to, is there maybe something here? I'm going to guess most families have something there.
There's always a moment or two. I've seen a few.
Yeah. Okay. You just have to figure out how they hang and where they go, I guess.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Cece, for your film and for your time. And we'll watch for what's next.
Thank you.
We'll check in on you in December to see how your screenplay is.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for having me. Bye.
Thank you. Next, I am going to be joined by Amir Chakaros and Sarah Bukhari from Dad's Apple. And a special guest,
Rafael Chakaros.
Rafael, what was your job on the film?
Acting.
He was the leading actor.
Yes. The lead. You were the most important actor.
Yes.
So, Amir, this is a personal film. Can you talk a little bit about like what inspired you to want to sort of explore your family history and your own experience in this way?
Actually, this is my third film about my family, and I was planning to make trilogy, And this is the end of the trilogy. The Revza was also screened in Milwaukee Film Festival in 2016. And what makes it focus on it? I think this is how what affected me is my childhood and my personal history affected me to be a filmmaker, and I like to deal with these issues in my medium. Is what I would say.
Yeah, and so in the film, I'm going to give a little bit of a spoiler here, but I think it's important to sort of open up this question. You know, you play your father, and our lead actor, who's just disappeared on us to not answer any more of my hard-hitting questions, kind of plays young you. How does kind of inhabiting that or flipping that over, flipping yourself into that father role, how did that help you kind of like reopen or re-understand or rethink that father-son relationship?
So the film based on reenactments that I reenact the memories like the last days of my father. And for some reason, I didn't want to cast anyone else as my dad, to act my dad. It looked a little bit strange and weird. And I decided to play myself because of this. And during this set and writing the film, how did it affect me? I mean, it's a little bit strange, honestly. Like trying to act like your dad in the film is a little bit complicated feelings, I would say. You know.
Yeah, that's. I imagine. Do you think that it helps you reflect or changes or deepens maybe your relationship to your child as your fatherness?
You know, not the. I cannot say that. Just the. I always think about that. I mean, my relationship with my father, not just for this film. I try to. Sorry, I just distracted from the kids.
Yeah.
You know, I try to reflect in my film my relationship with my father, but how can I say? You know, Kara, I forget the question. I'm so sorry.
It's very relevant because I was asking whether sort of making this film and sort of like kind of inhabiting your father sort of changes the way that you are a father, or like deepened your thinking about that. And it sounds like yes and no, but like your memories of your father always do.
Yes, always part of it. And I think people will think about that, not just me, like to be a parent like your father or like your own parents or different than. Try to not repeat the mistakes in the quotation mark, not to do that. Yeah, and the film definitely, I would say that I would consider that as a part of this process, I would say.
Yeah. And you know, working so closely like with your current family unit to sort of rethink the, you know, sort of your previous family unit. I think it's sort of an interesting it reminds me of some of what Robert Greene does in his work to really sort of through reenactment sort of re-understand or differently understand the past. And I think it's quite successful in sort of getting us to think about those experiences and to think about your experiences through that lens. Yeah. What was surprising or challenging in making this project?
Well, surprising is, first of all, that was shot in 16mm, and I needed to raise money, and I raised money. It wasn't cheap to produce that. To buy the films, lab, processing. That was, and I was able to raise the money. That was surprising. And the hardest part was working with a kid, especially your son, during the set and with the 16mm film. It was like a little bit stressful. You know, I cannot have lots of retakes. I cannot use the film that much, so we rehearse, and then the Rafi get tired, and then you cannot get the performance. That was the most difficult and challenging thing, I think, working with like 5-year old in the set who doesn't have acting training, I would say.
Well, now he does.
Yeah.
Got experience. We're gonna start getting gigs. And sort of the sort of tangible challenges of the constraint of sort of, you know, wanting to use sort of 16 millimeter and sort of needing to kind of be mindful of those differences. Yeah. Was there anything that was like, you've talked a little about what's challenging. Are there anything that was surprising for you in sort of setting out to kind of complete this family trilogy?
Like a surprising in a kind of what surprising would be like to be able to find all these people to act. You know, I said that the raising money was surprising. I was able to succeed, and I just realized that I have many supports. I didn't have like everyone was very helpful. And I think Milwaukee is good that way. You know, finding people, reaching out people. It's easy. It was easier than I thought, and that was, I think, surprising. And also, people were very helpful, and they opened their house. That I shot in Milwaukee. Tried to find that space was really challenging for me, but I figured out my friend's house, who's also the who composed the music of this film. His house was like a vintage. They like vintage style, and I thought, oh, it looks like my house in the childhood. I used their set, and like a puzzle, pieces of puzzle. They just came together. That, you know, just I didn't expect that was going to be easy. I would say.
Yeah. Was it intentional that sort of the, you know, sort of repositioning these memories into Milwaukee, and then also using 16 millimeter, for me, that it plays as though it is your memory and not just, well, is a very realistic. Is that an intentional kind of distancing that you were intending for the audience to sort of see that this is through the lens of memory?
I thought about this, filming this in Turkey with my mom and real but I decided not to do it. I decided to do it this way, that filming in Milwaukee, there are like production reasons, like it was going to be much cheaper for me, but also I want to do it now, the people who are in my life present instead of the past. That was a kind of a deliberate choice, I would say. Like it's past, and when I am talking past, I just wanted to do people that who I am living with present, I would say.
Yeah, right. So you've sort of recast into your past, your present, in some maybe parallel roles or sort of I don't know, like sibling roles philosophically. I don't know, or not, to sort of disrupt that moment. Yeah, I can see that, definitely. Great. What are you working on now? If you're done with this trilogy, you've finished.
Yeah, I will also say about the surprising one more. Question, then I will finish that. Also, I just realized that the moments I recreate, like, kind of started to take place of my real memories. I just when I think about the past right now, I just started thinking about the moments I recreate instead of the actual memories. That was also a little bit surprising. I thought about that. Anyway, so what I am doing right now is I'm making a documentary. My general films are about my people I know, my family, my personal history. I would call it a domestic ethnography. So my new film is about living in Milwaukee and America. I'm living my life. I am interviewing, integrating my life with other 3 people, people's lives who live in Milwaukee. So it's gonna be a feature film, and hopefully, I'm still filming, a few months left, and this is what I'm working on.
Yeah, great. We'll keep our eyes open for it when it is done and available, and we'll all watch for it, and see and learn more about this life and not these sort of memory lives. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you for your time. Please pass our appreciation on to the rest of your crew that's in the other room. And we'll watch for what you have next. Thank you, Amir.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Next, I will be joined by Jace Kalinski and Suzanne Kalinski from the film What You Left Behind.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome. So this is a personal film. We're in this theme of these are personal films. I'm opening with that recently here. Can you walk us through how this film and this project began?
So like I said in the film, this film was really brought out of this initial desire while my dad was alive to make a film with him. We were estranged and we really didn't have too good a relationship, and I desired to make, like I said at the beginning of the film, an observational documentary of him working in the garage. He was a fabricator, and he made all these like really crazy machines and stuff like that. So I really wanted to try to reconnect with him that way. But like I say, in the film, I didn't actually make that film. So after he unexpectedly passed away, I decided to start this film. And so that's kind of the origin for this film.
Mm-hmm. And Suzanne, for you, what was compelling, or what was your sort of like initial steps into wading into being involved?
Or your mom, yourself. It's in the bottom. Yeah.
Are you there? Okay. It was heavy because it brought out a lot of emotions. I gathered a lot, even after watching it a number of times and then watching it again last night. It kind of made me sense that I feel bad for my son who never had the opportunity to learn about it, his dad from an adult perspective. But I mean, Jace has so many of his father's characteristics that the sensitivity, the giving, the loving, the funny, the being creative, all of those things that he learned from his dad as he was growing up, I could see come through in that movie. It's amazing how he managed to grasp doing a film about his father that he couldn't develop that relationship with, and then how this obstacle in our life, this tragedy, ended up just revealing more of my husband in him. It was very, very insightful, very emotional. It brought out a lot of truths in our family of what we went through, which I'm sure many people go through. Opiate addiction is not something fun to go through, and many families do it. And to have the tragic ending that we did, and for Jace to be able to go through that was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. Earlier in this Q&A, I asked Ben Eisner whether sort of the act of filmmaking sort of works maybe as an act of kind of mourning or grieving, or sorry, I'm hearing myself over it, but whether the sort of this action sort of works to kind of mourn, to grieve, but in this case, I think we see kind of a recreation, a reassembling. Jace, can you talk a little bit about that process and your sort of, you've talked about this in the film, but can you talk a little bit more about the way that this process kind of helped you navigate these times?
Definitely. I feel like, I don't know, I have a lot of unseen footage from like really early on when I really didn't know what this film was, of me discovering these documents showing that my dad went to court-ordered therapy. And I just, on those documents, it had a whole entire history about, his family, about his past, about him getting these pills from his dad initially when he was racing in motocross, and his dad gave him these like pills to like help him perform better.
Mm-hmm.
Just seeing that and kind of seeing this this kind of like persona fall off that I never experienced was extraordinarily helpful for the process of moving on. I've encountered it a lot in my work where sometimes a project is just for you. And at the beginning of this film, it was definitely just for me. There's about half the footage that I never ended up touching because it was early on in the process. And I was figuring out the film, but I was also figuring out kind of where I was, kind of moving forward from that kind of initial incident. Does that answer the question?
Yeah. And it leads nicely to like, I want to ask like, what's it like for you, sort of now that the film is completed, to rewatch the film or to hear, your mom's reaction to rewatching the film. How does that sort of match or maybe deepen or change that sort of relationship that you have inside yourself to your father?
Definitely. Well, I mean, I feel definitely a lot closer to him. Like my mom said, I feel much more, I realize we have a lot more similarities because I feel like, when you're a kid, you don't want to be anything like your parents. And so I'm wearing his one of his sweaters today. And, I feel like a lot of affinity towards who he was as a person. And the portrait film that I made of him, which is also a reflection on our family history. I'm so excited anytime I can say something with clarity. And I feel like that film just took a lot of time to make, but I was able to say something that was extremely sincere to me and say it with clarity, which I feel like is just extraordinary. And I feel like my relationship's better with my family because of it. It's better with my mom, especially because she was just such an integral part of the filmmaking process. And it was like a two-way street. Like it was always a conversation, and the camera was just there, and my mom was comfortable with that. So
yeah. Suzanne, would you agree that, sort of how was this process for you?
It brought us closer, and it did allow us to share a lot of things we never talked about, which was wonderful. Jace is definitely a reflection of his father. And the ironic thing is, what Jace's father left behind is this beautiful person with this sensitive soul, also known as Jace Kalinski, the director and creator of What You Left Behind. But the story is not over because Jace will continue to write and produce films, and the ambiance of his dad, I'm sure, will just continue to go on in even better ways.
Yes, so what you left behind and what I carry forward, right? This sort of or what we are carrying with us from what is left behind. Yeah, I think that's beautifully put. You've described some of like what was maybe unknown, but were there things that were sort of particularly unexpected, maybe that you learned about yourself, Jace, in the process of this?
Unexpected things about myself that I learned.
Yourself, or maybe even the filmmaking process. Like, did you learn something new about filmmaking through this kind of a project?
Certainly. I mean, I feel like personally, it was, a very like an old reflection, and like a lot of the film was made by a process of like, I made it over the course of 3 years, and a lot of that was, making a film and then like getting critiques on it, feedback, and then like slowly evolving. And I can say with certainty that this film is like the thing that brought me to where I am now, like personally, but also from a filmmaking perspective. Just like I learned so much. Making this film and like staying with this project for so long, kind of like allowing it to evolve and really refine it. I think the one thing I really learned is that with documentary films especially, it's always about like just being adaptive to the process and seeing the story that's happening before your eyes. and responding to it, which is something that's, you know, hard to do when you have this like vision of like what the film's going to be, especially like when you are part of the film too. There's that proximity that you have to kind of see or like get distance from, to respond to what's happening and try to make a sincere portrait of the actual story.
Yeah, so you do have to sort of see yourself not as yourself, or not from inside yourself. You have to sort of see yourself from this, I am a filmmaker looking at my subject, which is probably a good exercise we should all do to sort of understand ourselves better. Well, thank you both for this. Jace, are you working on anything new now, next?
Yeah, so right after I just graduated from UWM in May, and right after I was accepted into this fellowship program through the Plum Blossom Initiative, which runs this program that basically supports artists that just graduated from Milwaukee area art schools, and basically gives them like, gets them to shows. I just had an artist talk that I did earlier this week, which was super exciting. And through that, I made this film this past summer called Daydreams from Yesterday, which is this portrait film of the Milwaukee Greenway that was shown as a live performance to a small group of people earlier in September. And basically, it's investigating the voices that shaped the really beautiful parks that we have in Milwaukee, and also the contemporary voices that are currently shaping the land around it today. So that was a live screening that I did, and I'm continuing on with that body of work, doing portraits of Milwaukee and of our parks. And so, yeah, you can find more of that on my website if you're ever interested.
Okay. What's the website again? Tell us.
Just jacekalinsky.com.
Great. So go to follow more and to learn more about, you know, our city, I think, which is always something that, you know, Milwaukee in particular likes to learn about itself. So wonderful. Thank you for that, for this film. Thank you for your continuing filmmaking, and for your time today. Thank you, Kalinskis.
Thank you so much.
Next, I will be joined by the director of Song of Clouds, Ankit Pudel. Oh, there you are. How did I do on pronouncing your name? You did.
I'm sorry. It's fine. Yeah, it's pronounced Ankit Pudel.
Oh, but more of a, oh, okay. Awesome. Thank you. So Ankit, can you talk a little bit about the origins of this project, your inspiration, and sort of this theme of afterlife and sort of betweenness?
Actually, it kind of like I am kind of intrigued, or like I'm more interested in this dream memories, any afterlives. Like so it was kind of like I think there are a few incidents and events in my like childhood that kind of led me to like, you know, more think more on those topics. And and like I think those are like the more primary ideas when I was like trying to write A Song of Clouds.
And where did you sort of where and how did you sort of execute that? How was the production process?
Okay. Yeah, it took me around a month. Like the film was like I was kind of thinking of the film like for a year. And I kind of wrote the script in Nepal. I'm from Nepal, so, and like I'm currently staying in Milwaukee, but like from Nepal, and so I wrote the script in Nepal, and yeah, I wanted to film. So like what happened was my grandmother from my father's side had just passed away. And I was like, I used to stay by her and like, you know, care for her the whole time. And she used to tell me a story, like share me about her dreams. like how my late grandfather used to come on her dreams and like used to summon her on her dreams. So it's a there's this mythical the story kind of going on like from generations, that like we see our like loved dead ones in our dreams. They come to us, talk to us, give us suggestions, or those kind of things. So it was kind of started from there, and I kind of wrote this film. And yeah, I wanted to cast my grandmother from my mother's side, also a widow, and I kind of was like trying to do that, but I couldn't, and I had to look for a character like and an artist. So I couldn't find anyone, so I like I worked with a non-professional actor.
Okay, yeah.
So she has never worked in any films or anything. So we just started to bond and everything. I kind of shared the whole idea to her, and she was like okay to film. And yeah, I kind of started from there. And I think the inspiration for the film like this, the writing was like I kind of visited my grandmother from my mother's side while I was writing the script. And I was going through her photo album, like I was like looking my mother's childhood, hers, and like my mother's childhood as well, and like the whole my childhood, everything. So the whole photograph, the photo album, and those their memories and everything, like I was thinking of. And yeah, I kind of then yeah, I was so. Actually, what I did was during filming with my actor, I asked for her photo albums. So I was like her grandchild.
Right.
He was in like Gulf country in Dubai, Qatar. I'm not sure about the country. So he was working there, and I asked for her albums and her husband's album. I'm sorry, everyone. Like, so I collected the photo from there.
Yeah.
Film that's in the film, and yeah, I used the whole idea of my family's like photo album in the film from her album.
Yeah. So you sort of integrated, okay, I can't work with this sort of the figure that is inspiring this moment. But you sort of recast someone who was in a parallel place and then integrated her family and life together with your own. That's beautiful and lovely to learn about. Yeah. I was very disappointed to learn that there is no salt. There's very little salt in the afterlife. I'm going to need to bring a lot with me because I do like salt. That is a note. I have all right, gonna have to prepare for that one. A moment in the middle of the film feel like the film feels very prescient to I don't know, fall of 2020 or to 2020 in general. In the middle of the film, the voice of you as the character in the film says, "I'm not coming home this year," which struck me as very close to a lot of our experience perhaps this year. How does this sort of this theme of kind of distance and time and kind of maybe not loneliness but solitude that we sort of spend time with in the film? You did not make this film this year. You did not, it sort of is not reflecting on our current, but how are you maybe as the artist reflecting on how your film sits in our current moment?
Yeah. And first I'll just talk about salt afterlife, and afterlife commented. Yeah, it's kind of a cultural thing that during our after the ceremony of after someone dies, and what is the ceremony called? I'm sorry, I just
a funeral or ritualistic moment. Yeah,
ritual after the funeral, we have this 13 days of this ceremony where we will all the family come together from different parts. If somebody is on so they have this ritual on the dead, on the loved ones, dead ones, him, and the whole time the few family members can't they don't like eat salt the
Oh.
13 days. So it kind of like comes from there, like
Okay.
I kind of put that together, like
Mhm.
thought that if there might be no salt in afterlife as well. So
So there's this sort of this abstinence from salt is sort of tied into that ritual. That's wonderful. Yeah.
And
Yeah. And so then like you played the film at Sundance this past January, and then all of the things that we know have happened for the rest of 2020 have happened. Are you reflecting on your film differently now than you may have then or when you were making it?
Reflecting as in, I'm sorry,
just in sort of how it resonates for an audience maybe who's experiencing distance, this loneliness or solitude more acutely.
Yeah, actually, the whole this loneliness and solitude was kind of inspired like from looking like, because I used to like every time like I because like I like met my grandmothers like in both sides, like either my or any old person whose other half has passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could see this this whole like in their eyes that can be filled. So I kind of felt like they are like among the people, they were kind of feeling lonely as well, like they kind of missed their partner. And I think it kind of like I was thinking of that, and I was observing their like daily lives, like how they used to they live like so I mean they most of the and the current situation is in Nepal is like most of the youths, they migrate abroad in search of job, or it's like to work work or to study. So like you'll see most of the villages like without any youth at all, like there's just elder ones or the really small children's.
Yeah.
So and most of the houses are like just old couples living, or like the single so I'm kind of thinking of those things and like observing their lives, and like felt this really kind of felt like I had to like put this thing in the film. And and like what I got from it, like this kind of has this subtle socio-political reflection of Nepal as well, the loneliness itself. And I think you can like feel it now as well in this situation as well. Yeah,
right. I think for an audience who maybe doesn't think as much about solitude or loneliness, I think the timing is uncanny to sort of think, like to sort of consider these questions more acutely. Yeah. How was your experience playing at Sundance though? Like, can we let's celebrate that for a minute? Did you have a good reception there for the film before needing to start to go to these virtual film festivals?
Yeah. Fortunately, what happened was like Sundance. After the Sundance, my Sundance, I went there and like everything was like in person. The whole festival was. After that, everything shut down. So that is the only festival I went like in person.
Yeah,
and it feels like I kind of enjoyed like this getting reactions from the viewers, like audience, like I really love that. Like I was on every screening, I used to stay in the theater and like watch audience watch my film. I really love that, like how they would react, like I really love that. And I think I'm missing that after this lockdown, like this corona situation, and like everything's moving online. But yeah, the whole experience is really good in Sundance. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think that's something that all filmmakers are missing, is that moment to sort of feel that audience vibing with their film or experiencing their film, laughing or crying in the right places, but their eyes widen at the right spot. It's definitely something that is missed. we're doing our best to still make it so that there's someone seeing it, but you do miss that kind of synchronous moment, that feeling of togetherness. Absolutely. Well, are you working on anything new or next that we can watch for?
Yeah, I'm currently doing my post-production for my short film, and I'm currently on my initial stage of my feature film. I'm writing a feature, and I'm planning to complete the production around the end of 2022 if everything goes as planned. And yeah, so
Great. So we will keep our eyes peeled, and we're proud to have you here in Milwaukee. Even if it's not as easy of a commute to come to the theater and watch with our audience, we're pleased to have you part of this community and making these great films here. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you
for your time, and thank you for your film. All right. I know at the beginning I promised us a mini Milwaukee music video show, but apparently I was wrong. But I am going to welcome the team from Lady Cannon back to the top on screen, and we'll talk music videos briefly. Hello, team. Thank you for being patient with us while we hoped we'd have a couple of music videos. I'm going to ask you questions about all the music videos. That's not true. I'm lying to you. But I wanted to sort of talk about sort of the process of making a music video where you're sort of partnering a musician and a piece of art, a song, together with a visual vision. And can you talk about for this video, like what was that collaboration or what was that process like? How did the vision come to be?
Well, Jeff and I were looking to do a music video, and I'm an editor first and foremost, so I occasionally do side projects, and this was a space I wanted to kind of move into to direct a music video. So we had been talking about that, and I saw Martha play up at a festival in Grafton, Wisconsin, Uleo Creek Music Festival, and was just pretty wowed by her performance there, and told Jeff about it. And Jeff actually had a connection because he had done some music video work with Martha's other band, with Vincent Kircher, La Resorts. So we started a conversation with Martha about trying to do some Lady Cannon work. And we exchanged some ideas. And one of the first things she sent over was some clips from the movie Paris, Texas, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm a sucker for that movie. So especially like the scenes in it that are the home movie scenes, the old film scenes from it. I mean, and that story itself too, which is about a breakup, a very loving relationship that falls apart, and then the character kind of rediscovers all those memories from that relationship through watching those films. So that's where the conversation started, and that's kind of the initial concept of what led us to kind of do this video. So
you found some like mutual aesthetic ground.
Absolutely,
it sounds like.
And her music and songwriting. She's an incredible songwriter, and her album "Fortune's Darling." If you haven't listened to that, listen to that album. It's filled with songs of very, very honest lyrics of like falling in love, heartbreak, breakups, and it really kind of lent itself to what we were doing here, which was kind of a moments from a relationship that is no more.
And Martha, how did you respond to this sort of like, hey, let's work together, let's make a music video, and sort of like how do you feel like you were a part of that collaboration?
I just want to say thank you, Kara Scenes, making all of this work in a tech sense. So thank you to everyone involved. To answer the question, I was really pleased that Andy and Jeff really welcomed my ideas about how I wanted to approach it. An example is I was very I would say certain is probably a nice way to put it. I was very certain that I didn't want it to be too scripted. I wanted to be, I wanted it to feel kind of like natural and almost spontaneous, like what we filmed, which is the longest way to film a music video. You know, so there was no storyboard or, you know, script. It was just like me doing whatever I did and them trying to kind of coach me into doing things that made for a good shot. So, but they, you know, they were very, what's the word? Very patient with me. I've never acted, or, you know, this is the first time I've ever been on camera as part of a Lady Cannon project. So it was out of my comfort zone, and they were both very patient and helpful in coaching me through that, and also really accept. So.
The whole process was pretty collaborative. I mean, literally we'd be walking with the dog and we'd go past the bar and say, hey, I wonder if we can film in there. And we would walk up to the bar, our bar, ask them, they gave us permission. Yeah, bring the dog in as well. And, you know, so the whole process was kind of like that.
Yeah. It sounds like a collaboration, but also like a spontaneity that like,
Exactly.
you know, lent itself probably to sort of unexpected creative moment, things that you couldn't have storyboarded or scripted because you didn't know they existed yet.
There was very little. Martha was in charge of outfits, which there were many, because we wanted this to feel like this. It was a long, you know, even though we shot it only in about 4 hours, 2 different days, it was supposed to span a long stretch of time. And we kind of wanted it to also kind of look time agnostic a little bit, to not be a time period based on the aesthetic that we were going to be using. Could be from any time, hopefully. So that's what we had, and then kind of rolled from there.
It's wonderful. I also like that it was sort of like, you know, everyone got to sort of do things that maybe weren't the thing that they're most comfortable with, like let's experiment, and that everyone's experimenting together, and that curiosity, that shared curiosity, and that shared willingness to be like, well, let's just, you know, let's try this, let's see, but we'll do that together, rather than being too prescriptive about it. It's wonderful.
Yeah, originally we were going to have her sing on camera, and we had a venue even booked for that, but a snowstorm and ice storm canceled that 2 weekends in a row. So it became this, and, you know, I kind of liked how it turned out. So we kind of went with that and said, you know what, it's a little bit different than we envisioned, but
we were going to intercut performance.
About the only thing that was kind of scripted once we decided to go this route of just have the footage was I wanted a kind of one singular scene of those memories, and that became that Bradford Beach shot where kind of she walks up to camera as kind of starting the relationship, and kind of exits camera at the end to kind of signify the end of it, and then disappears.
Martha, what has been the experience of musicians during this pandemic? Can you speak a little bit to sort of like the challenges? If there are joys, tell us about those joys, but also like how can our audiences kind of continue to support musicians and as they are filmmakers through their engagement with our festival?
Right. Well, I think, you know, for the musicians who were touring full time, or at least trying to, you know, those sort of like just breaking, not quite famous yet musicians, their entire world was ripped out from beneath them, you know. So, and I'm not in that category. I'm a mom. I'm almost 40. I make music because I love it. You know, I don't make music to make money or be famous. So for me, you know, the sort of great reset that is happening has really been a positive thing. You know, recording, I have a studio in my home. So for me, it's been all a net positive. And I think if anything, people are a little more aware now than they used to be, that they need to take care of the things that matter to them. people are maybe more aware of the things that maybe aren't as important as they thought. And so I would really, I would challenge in an era when art is, especially like visual and music, in the era of streaming, on artists that mean something to them as they do on Netflix. Spend $8.99 a month supporting artists that you love. And maybe that means becoming a monthly donor to Milwaukee Film Festival so that the film festival can support art through their work. Or maybe that means changing every month. You buy an album from a local artist or from an artist that's a person of its. I think I don't even have to. I think everyone's just very aware of it, actually, which is wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I also think that the music video format, for filmmakers who are looking to kind of like get back into production, but in a less consequential way than perhaps, I don't know, even a short film, a music video feels like a genre that can be done in one of the more safe. You can do it more distanced. You can do it with, you can hire some of those animators we heard from earlier. Andy and Jeff, what are you working on creatively right now? How is this? How are you persisting through 2020?
Well, right now I'm just kind of storyboarding and looking forward to making the next projects as soon as we still can. Working on a few other things, editing, but as far as shooting goes, I'm just I can't wait to get back out there.
I do a lot of editing work. Jeff and I do, but personally, I'm working on a documentary that Jeff's helped me shoot as well. So hopefully that a short, so that'll be, and hopefully more Lady Cannon work. I keep telling Martha that I want to do more work with her. So hopefully more of that in 2021.
Yeah. I like the idea
you might just have to do it with me wearing masks.
Right. Well, I also like the idea of like music videos where like musicians film their parts in their own homes and then the editing brings them together. I don't know. I'm just having ideas for you all. I have no idea what's feasible. I'm an exhibitor. I just have wild ideas. But yeah.
I'm sure we'll see a lot of creative solutions, projects coming to life that are all like that in the next year based on work that's been done this year. Yeah.
Well, and they always say, these moments of big crisis create, because of the constraints that there are, you get sort of a creative explosion, right? So there's this like, hopefully like new techniques and new practices and new aesthetics kind of are born out of like a really, really challenging and, devastating time. If artists will save us, they say. So hopefully that will happen. Wonderful. Well, thank you all for your time, for your music, for your music video, for helping us think about how to sort of continue that support throughout the year. And best to you for the rest of your evening and the rest of your film festival. We were talking about movies you all have been watching, so we'll go watch some more of them. Thank you. And our final film for this evening, we're now into the evening. I'd like to welcome the team from Ray Nitty Presents Champion Style, a Jade Caron dance film. And you'll have to tell me if it's Caron or Charon. I made a choice.
It's Sharon, but
Sharon, all right. I was like, I'm going to choose one or the other, I'm a Kara, but they call me Kara. You got those A's, they're impossible, right?
Okay, well, nice to meet you.
Welcome. Thank you. So you filmed this project in the British Virgin Islands very early in 2020. The film description tells us like just things started to sort of change in our lives and in our global lives in the world. Can you talk to me a little bit about sort of the inspirations, the origins, kind of what kept you persisting through all that to make this project?
Good afternoon or evening, everybody. My name is Ray Nitty. What kept us persistent to go through this, and I appreciate the team that was a part of this: Jay, Sharon, Biko, Philly Flyboy, who actually shot the film as well. But what kept me persistent for this during everything was, for me, this was an opportunity to really finally live out a creative dream of mine, to really tell the story of my hometown, of the British Virgin Islands and the US Virgin Islands, and really give people that other side of me that they probably wouldn't typically have gotten because of music I've put out in the past. So for me, this was like a transition in my career. It represented me going back to my roots and really bringing my culture and my family to the forefront of my creativity, and really wanting to show the world the 100% side of Regenio Alejandro Boynes and thing like that. Oh yeah, this is gonna be one of those type of
yeah, that's good. How and when did you get these folks involved, and what brought you both to sort of be a part of kind of executing this vision, this dream?
So I know I've been I've been bugging Biko with this vision for more than 5, maybe even more than 10 years, just always talking.
You just wore him down.
Yeah, just like, yo, I just want to go home at the time, like not even knowing what it was I wanted to shoot. But we finally had the opportunity where I entered into this creative phase of showing more of my culture into my music, and we wanted to visually tell that story. And Biko reached out to the amazing Jade Sharon, who wrote the script, directed, did the choreography, and everything. And she really just asked a lot of questions about our culture, and really took heed to a lot of those things, and paid a lot of attention to, and did a lot of research as well, and even taught me some things about the the BVI that I didn't know, being from the Virgin Islands. So, and then it was just an opportunity to get my family involved as well. I had my niece in the video, my aunt was in the video, my nephew and my brother, and everybody was just a part of pulling all of these resources during a pandemic together in the British Virgin Islands. So, Biko brought all of these amazing people together. Me and Philly had a relationship. We've done some work before, but this was my first time being able to work with Jade on a project. So I'm thankful for the team that I was able to put this together.
Jade and Rob, do you want to share, like, is that what drew you in? Were there other things that drew you in? What was your experience sort of getting started here in this project?
I just wanted to work with Jade and Nitty, so I'm gonna let Jade.
Oh yeah, you were like, I want to make this connection. Done. I'm on board. Okay, yeah. Jade.
Yes. So some years back, we were supposed to work together, me and Nitty, and I couldn't do it in the time. It didn't work out. But this time, when they reached out, I was like, let me hear the track. And then when I heard it, I was like, oh, yeah. That was like the confirmation, because the track is super great. And it gave me an opportunity I'm a guest of the culture. So I wanted to research about it. I wanted to learn about Ray's family. And any time I can combine filmmaking and dance and movement and liberation all in one piece of art, I'm down for it. So that's how I got involved with the film.
Yeah. So the film sort of explores kind of like, it's like one part history, one part dance history, one part sort of, I mean, whether you're welcomed in as a guest, as sort of like, I'm going to say a tourist, but I'm going to say it's more than like, it's deeper than that. It's like you're being welcomed to this place that may be new to you, or whether it's family story. This sort of wraps up all of those kind of into a joyful exploration. I think that's how I'm going to call it. You also describe it as sort of sharing how dance can be used as a tool to free Black bodies. Tell us more about that, and how this film maybe participates in that goal.
Right. So this is the first interview I've done, or at least. So hearing you talk about the film, it it's like, okay, this is great. It feels good listening to your interpretation of it. Well, I am a dancer and a choreographer, and so I'm really interested in how the movement, the dance can tell stories. And in the BVI, in the U.S. Virgin Islands, they actually, their dance history, traditional dances that they actually use to liberate themselves during as a form of rebellion and fighting back enslavement.
Mhm.
So I thought that would be great to bring that into this art. And then, you know, after that, we had George Floyd. We had so many other things that like spiraled after this film was created. And I feel like it's just timely because of that movement has been liberating us for a very long time. And so it was important to bring that into the art, at least from my standpoint. And yeah, I'll let them answer too, but that's kind of where I was thinking when I created the script.
I think Jay did a great job answering that part.
Sort of this moment, like sort of
movement wasn't really my thing. I was kind of stiff. So.
So really thinking about like, how do these histories, you know, reflect on the present? I think we've heard a lot of that today in this set of Q&As. There's been a lot of I think we've gone all over the globe, which has been fascinating, but we've also been thinking a lot about like memory and history and like family. So it's convenient, I guess, that y'all are last, because it sort of wraps things up nicely for a lot of these threads that we've been talking through, and sort of how we reflect on like what has happened since, right? How the pandemic, but also sort of other kinds of awakenings or awakenings to what we should have been already awake to, and how bodies are working in this year. I think that's beautifully put. So I just want to hear more about the production, about like bringing all these people together, sort of like wrangling your extended family. Can you talk a little bit more about sort of the being there and being there when you were there and this process of pulling everyone together? It sounds like Biko is the bringer together, but I might be hearing that wrong. Tell us a little bit more about the process of being there and making this and bringing so many people from Milwaukee down.
Yeah, well, you know, I was me and Ray had this ongoing conversation about this, but we couldn't really do a hefty production because the BVI, you know, we actually worked with the tourism board and they were so grateful to let us come in and shoot. But a big production would have sort of been out of the scope what we would have to have been able to afford. But they gave us a lot of love. And my whole thing with this production was I wanted to have the dopest Milwaukee people on a project, because Nitty's song is fire. It's produced by Andre Business Boy Robbins. I don't know if you know who Business Boy is, but he got a song with Eminem and Rihanna. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, that's incredible. You know, and then Jade, you know, I've been a big fan of Jade. We both went to UCLA, and I've been a big fan of hers for a long time. Philly is amazing, and Nitty's one of my favorite songs. So like I hadn't been on a vacation in 10 years, maybe a little bit longer. So Nitty literally wore me down for like we got to do it. We got to do it. I was like, all right, let's do it. And then we get down there and it's coronavirus and I have a panic attack for like 5 hours because I sort of knew America was going to be in a bad place. And I'm a future thinker. And I was away from my son. I didn't know if we should leave or go, but Nitty's family is so amazing. And they calmed me down and gave us so much love. And I'm mad I'm here now. I want to get out of here and go back to BVI.
Yeah, Biko not being 100% truthful. I don't think he ever calmed down. He's saying the fam calmed you down. Biko sent us to the grocery store. We're buying like endless amounts of groceries. Like, yo, we're not even gonna be here this long. He's having us buy groceries as if we're about to stay there forever. But as he said, my family, I just want to shout them out. My aunt Jeanette, my cousin Kenesha, my brother Alonzo, my nephew Jeremy, my little cousin Jadea. Like they all really brought everything together, and like in the spur of a moment to like, okay, this is what we need. And then Jade had only a few hours to teach the young girls the dance rehearsals, and they learned it and they killed it. So I was just proud really to see my family in the forefront and taking lead and really telling their story and history, because I left because of traumatic experiences. So for me, it was just like, how do I tell that story of like how difficult it was for me to leave, and like not being connected to my family, feeling like a part of me was missing for more than 10 plus years. And now I'm 36 years old and I'm finally going back home, getting to show my culture, getting to get back in touch with things. So it was just amazing, humbling experience for me, and I'm very proud of my family, and I'm just excited to merge both the worlds that have created me and accepted me, because Milwaukee was my place of refuge leaving the Virgin Islands.
Yeah. I also like how you just said, "Oh, I haven't taken a vacation in 10 years." You took a vacation, but also worked. Like I like that attitude there. That feels right to me as somebody who's probably also not taken a real vacation, just work vacations. It's just
those are the funnest kind. Those are the funnest.
You know, maybe. I want to ask, sort of like. How is your family doing through the pandemic? How are the Virgin Islands maybe differently holding up than Milwaukee and Wisconsin, who are currently not maybe doing our best?
That's why I was nervous. I had to come back. That's why I was nervous.
The Virgin Islands are like the British Virgin Islands, and the Virgin Islands is like we're super resilient, strong people, and it's like it's amazing beaches out there. So like the family is good. I'm like jealous because I'm seeing my aunt post pictures on the beach. I'm seeing pictures of the food, but you know it's still a pandemic, so the country is shut down right now. So what is happening is in our culture we thrive off of tourism. And right now, with the borders being closed, our biggest source of economy is not being it's not happening right now. So, but December 1st, the borders will reopen back up to the British Virgin Islands. So for me, this is also an opportunity to show people all the beautiful things that the USVI and the British Virgin Islands has to offer, and give them an extended formal invite to come back December 1st. Not only get away from Corona, but to really help a country bounce back. We just had Hurricane Irma out there that devastated the island, and another hurricane before that, but now we're going through a pandemic. But we just want to invite everybody back December 1st. Yeah, is back open for business, and I hope to see everybody there. Let's throw a big party.
And hopefully, you know, there's a benefit to being an island because it makes it a whole lot easier to close down. But the problem is being, you know, so dependent on tourism sort of to persevere. But let's be safe, but support tourism. Jade, how is the pandemic affecting, you know, dance and your dance work, your art? How are dancers sort of holding up? What are you doing to keep yourself moving? I didn't mean that pun, but I mean that pun. And sort of like how can audiences maybe support other artists? This seems like a theme I'm also asking a lot about, like how do we continue to support all of the arts, since so many of these films in the Milwaukee shows are cross arts disciplinary.
Ooh, honey, when it first happened, so when the world started to shut down, we were in BBI. And so I actually was living in Los Angeles at the time, but decided to come back to Milwaukee to quarantine with my mother because I didn't want to be by myself. And so I'm like directing this, but receiving plenty emails with cancellations, and I really hadn't wrapped my mind around what was going on. So it was rough in the beginning, lost a lot of gigs, but had time to kind of reconnect with myself. And I was on TikTok. I was doing things that I probably would have never done had I had my current schedule. And so I lost a lot of work, but I actually just got a job. So I was able to get hired again. But you can support artists by, you know, streaming their work now, supporting any product they have, inviting them to do panels, paying them for their time. You know, and also a way of support is also resources. So, you know, if you have dancers who may not be versed in film or camera, but if you're a camera person and you can help stream or shoot their work, it's the time to collaborate with artists so that you all can work together to generate income. That's the best way. You know, winter is coming, so we have to, you know, we've been able to get through the summer doing, shout out to Nitty's song coming. But you know, we were able to get to work still with the warm weather, but you know, winter is coming, so now we got to start thinking about how can we transition this indoors. But I would say for any artist, just keep creating, keep making, even if you don't know what you're making, just keep. The only way to freeze is to stop moving. And so, like, I actually shot another film during the pandemic. So it's just like keeping your mind on something. But yeah, stream artists' work and collaborate, offer resources. Yeah.
You just teed up that there's a next film, there's another film. But what are you know, what other projects can we kind of be watching for, whether they're music or film or places to check out work and to do that supporting for all three of you? What would you like us to support or check out next or watch for if it's further down the line?
I just say this, we're all cooking. Woo, God is good. God is really good. And, you know, no, really, I'm appreciative of all the blessings and, you know, to be a Milwaukee artist and for all of us to be making it through COVID is such a blessing. And the ancestors, I think that's what God brought us to the BVI for. And I think the ancestors blessed us and touched us as we've come back. But I've been working. We just shot, me and Jade both just shot a film. We both shot them at Ray's and our homeboys Creative Corridor on 32nd and Center. Mine is coming out at the end of this month. It's called Elevator Man. It's a trigger horror film. We shot it with a whole bunch of Milwaukee influencers. Shot it with the red. It's beautiful. I can't wait for it to come out. It comes out October 31st at the Creative Corridor.
I'll go next.
Yeah.
So for me, I'd say what I got coming up is, as Biko alluded to, the Creative Corridor. I'm one of the partners on that development. And as we talk about supporting artists and things like that, it is Wisconsin's largest affordable housing development project in state's history. And it's just going to be the mecca for creativity, transformation, and ownership. And I just call it our arena to retain our homegrown talent, so we don't lose our Jades and our business boys to the New Yorks and the LAs of the world, so we could keep our talent here. Talent retention has been a huge issue for our city. So that's been kind of my goal with the Creative Corridor. It'll be 197 residential units. It'll also be 50,000 square feet in creative commercial space, from podcast studios to recording studios to film rooms. Jade will be operating a dance space in there as well. I'll be in there. Sharp Creators, my partners, will have STEM in there as well. I'm also putting out more music in the midst of that mouthful that I just said. And I'm just looking forward to continuously growing. Just keep looking out for more growth from me.
Yeah.
As far as, well, first I want to say, is it Kara?
It's Kara. Yeah.
Kara. Thank you, Kara. I know you're tired. You've been doing this for a long time. As far as me, I just shot a film about a Black woman superhero, and I released it September 17th. And I missed the Milwaukee Film Festival, so hopefully next year it could be presenting here. But that actually just got awarded as a semi-finalist for Best Experimental Film at the Montreal Film Festival. So I'm working on that, trying to turn that into a series. I'm trying to raise money so we can shoot that in Milwaukee. And the Creative Corridor was the space that we had that film. And also Alice Garden in Milwaukee was the other location. And I want to continue doing what we did in Champion Style, which is creating these films and live performances that has Black women and Black girls in the center and main characters, and creating narratives and fantasy lands, and just creating art that is centered around them. I've been able to do that for all my films and most of my work, and I want to continue doing that. And so right now I'm just pushing to get Gold created in Milwaukee. And just, me as an artist, I'm always creating and doing something. So it's different now that the pandemic is here, so I can't really do live performances, but focusing on what I can do and how we can start creating more narratives.
Yeah. It's a nice bookend with the very first film that we started with, Blackbird Fly, which also sort of recentering a kind of a overlooked Black female figure, a dancer, Raven Wilkinson. So this sort of, we've come full circle, everybody, back to this sort of centering Black female stories and superheroes, real life superheroes or more fantastical superheroes. It's all come full circle. Well, thank you all for your film, for your perseverance, for all of your creative work and your energy and your time today. Have a great rest of your weekend. Watch some more movies. Get inspired by some of the other creatives working in Milwaukee and that we want to retain. That talent retention thing, I'm like, please, I'm endorsing 100%. We need to keep great filmmakers, great artists, all that talent here, because why leave? There's nothing for you out there unless you're going to visit the Virgin Islands, in which case you're allowed to go and visit and then come back. That is, we will allow that. Right.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
All.
Thank
All
you.
right. Big up, book, BVI bad.
Bye.
Bye. And thank you all, everyone who's watching out there on the internet for this marathon of Q&As. If you haven't yet watched either of the Milwaukee shows, make sure you check those out and then circle back to the Q&A to hear more about some of the inspirations behind those films. And we will see you on the internet nightly at 8 p.m. for the Nightcap presented by the Yabuki Family Foundation and in all of our other panels and events throughout the festival. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.